Hey Dramax, welcome back. We're on the second to last episode with episode 11 of When the Phone Rings. Got some thoughts to share on this, so we'll cover the good, the meh, and the WTF, and there's a lot of that. So watch on if you've seen episode 11 or if you still just don't care. So starting off, we go back into time, 3 years on our couple's wedding day. They both enter the apartment, which of course is assumingly Hong Yi-ju's first time since she just married the man. And their main furniture in their living room is there, but there's a box or two of more things that they still have to unpack. Park Sun gets some water out of the fridge while Hong Yi-ju waits patiently for him to say something, anything. But what does she receive? Silence. So she goes to her room and switches into a modest nightgown. She wonders if her husband will join her, but she soon gets a text from him. He tells her, "That bedroom is yours from now. I won't be going into that room." Well, that answers that. But he continues to tell her that he'll use the room near the entrance, and he doesn't want her to go in that one either. Good grief. So apparently he is still setting up boundaries even on their wedding night. So anyway, we see Park Sun take off his vest and get into bed, sighing at, I guess, at all that he's done and what all he did to move things around to marry her, only to keep her at bay when knowing what we do now, he never wanted to. He always wanted her closer than the deliberate distance he forced them to have. So the next day, Hong Yi-ju is getting breakfast as Park Sun is leaving to go to work. He walks up to her asking, "Did you not read my text? I told you there was no need to prepare meals. I don't know when I'll leave work, so don't wait up." Then off he goes. But then we get a voiceover from Park Sun saying, "What if I had told you back then that I felt at ease with you in this house, that I was glad you became my wife, and that I couldn't sleep a wink because of you?" And he's outside at the elevator and gets on it to where it closes and then it opens up again. He gets off of it to come back inside. He asks a very dismayed Hong Yi-ju, who is still sitting at the table, "Do you like being married to me or not? If you don't hate it, how about we slowly get to know each other better?" Hong Yi-ju is shocked at first, but she nods. Voiceover Park Sun says, "Instead of dedicating it to hatred and revenge, if I had dedicated my life to love and happiness with you, I'm now paying the price for not doing that, Hee-ju." And we see the two of them fade from the apartment of a scene we know never happened, and how our Park Sun is wallowing in his regret. This scene reminds me of the movie Sliding Doors. It was an alternative fantasy of what might have been if Gwyneth Paltrow's character had caught a train or not, and the movie flips back and forth of how her life would have turned out either way, by coming home and catching her cheating boyfriend or missing his affair altogether. But of course, that's just one moment in time. Park Sun, though, has had several sliding door moments to where in the 3 years he was with Hong Yi-ju, he could have said something along the lines of what he just said to her now. Even though I don't condone his cold treatment of her, but in hindsight, I understand why, even if I don't like it. Park Sun, from what I gather, had long since decided to implode his life. He was with a family who really didn't care for him and was being raised as someone he wasn't. Even though he worked hard to get to where he was, he lost what his true identity might have been. He might have remained a young man catching fish or decide his own path in life that wasn't erected for him. But it would have been his choice. What he didn't count on was having feelings for Hong Yi-ju, the girl who helped him survive his transition into the Park's house, and the woman he grew to love. But he was afraid of what those feelings meant. He kept his distance for 2 reasons, and one of which was already stated. He didn't bank on being with her, but selfishly wanted her when the chance came about to secure her hand in marriage. That, and to prevent her from marrying someone else at her mother's behest. The other might have been, and this is just my feelings on the matter, but it might have been the repercussions of her maybe or maybe not loving him back. Park Sun had faced a lot of things, but rejection from her might have dealt a blow he couldn't deal with. Even if she faked feelings for him, that seemed abhorrent to him, as it did in the flashback in episode 2, if he truly felt that she was doing what her mother was pushing her to do. On the other side of that, with her loving him, how could he stay in this life living as Park Sun knowing it was a lie? His identity, his fraternity, everything. And how could he leave this life without her? Would she follow? We know now that she would leave with him wholeheartedly, but prior to the start of the series, Park Sun had no idea of this possibility and probably didn't want to subject her to giving up everything just to be with him. But I'm sure they would have worked through it in time, where he might have divulged everything and given her the choice to stay with him. For sure though, he delayed in working on his life escape plan because he wanted to be near her as much as he could before he felt like he had to give her up. But like his what-if self asked, what did he want more, revenge or love? And now he's wishing he would have chosen love and happiness with her. Sure, both of their families sucked, but he might have stayed in this ruse of a life longer if it meant being with his Hee-joo long term. Hindsight is 20/20, and there's lots of things you don't regret until it's gone. But it makes me wonder how things might have been going into the whole story arc with the kidnapper and Park Do-jae if he had chosen love over revenge. Now, getting back to where we were, we get the reset of him back at his grandfather's house on fire, running into Hangina, desperately trying to find his wife. The kidnapper calling him, threatening to off his wife, and Park Sun resolves in running to his car to chase them down, promising his Hee-joo that he's coming and her telling him not to. Her teary confession of love and her resolution of not allowing her husband to suffer at the hands of a madman. Then the crash, the silence, and his grief. Now we see from his point of view what happened between the crash and the news report his friend did at the end of the last episode. So Park Sun drives to try and find her because remember, he has that location finder on his phone. He comes to a roadblock but gets out to climb a hill, and it seems that her signal is in the river. And Park Sun is about to lose it again before he gets a call. It's Detective Kang saying that they found it. What? The crash site. Park Sun goes up to the detective saying, "You said you found it. What did you find?" "I don't see the car." Detective Khan says, "It seems the car was going very fast at the time of the accident. It hit the guardrail and went straight down." Arbe steps past it and looks down at the gravity of what's hitting him, witnessing the police tape and the bumper to her car down the side of the hill. Detective Kong also points out that they found her shoe at the scene, very reminiscent of Park Do-jae finding his brother's shoe. Detective Kong recommends for them to start the search. Then up drives the Hungs, and as they come rushing to the crash site, Park Sun hands the detective Hung Hee-joo's shoe, since that's still evidence, and walks off, unable to deal with his in-laws at the moment. The witch asks the detective, "What happened? Where's Hee-joo?" Hung Hee-na asks if the car fell down there. Her mother can't believe it and starts frantically calling her daughter's name. Chairman Hung tells his wife to calm down and asks the detective if he will start the search right away. By this time, Park Sr. has appeared while Park Sun is standing off to the side, silent. Chairman Hung grabs onto Park Sr.'s jacket because, remember, the man was already pissed all the way off last episode, but he's even more so since that same demon spawn has come from the depths of hell and seemingly took another one of his children. Not that the kidnapper offed his son, but he was the main reason behind it. He asked Park Sr., "Why did you spare him and let this happen? Bring him to me right now." Park Sr., a little dazed, says, "What the hell are you saying?" He grabs onto Chairman Hung saying, "Who says I spared him?" "Your father tricked me," Chairman Hung accuses. "That sly old fox." Hung-ina's like, "Enough of that. What's the point of blaming anyone now? Since when did you care about your children? Don't you know you brought this upon yourself?" And she's right, but it's weird. If Chairman Hung had taken down Chairman Park right before our bait got swapped out to be Park Sun, we wouldn't be where we are right now, but she's still right. Her father should have stuck to his guns, literally, and taken the old goat out, either physically or financially. But going back to the scene though, the witch is concerned about finding her daughter, pleading if she could be found. Park Sun looks at all the people who have been in his life for 20 years, those who have done him wrong in some ways, and Hee-joo in others. But the one person he doesn't see amongst them, his mother. He marches straight over to the car and notices that she didn't come at all. So later that day, the police reviewed the cameras at his grandfather's home, all the Morris dash cams, and nothing. No one can spot her, meaning Park Sun's mother. The Backgate cameras are for real-time monitoring, so conveniently, they weren't recording. And of course, his mother would have known that. Park Sun says he understands that before hanging up. He gets out of his SUV before going to his parents' garage where his mom's car is. He digs around for the keys to her car, and he looks through the dash cam on her car and no recording. It's been deleted. And he calls Detective Kong back to confirm that with him. That perks up the detective on the other line. Poxon says to seize and recover it and check her phone and location data to find out where she was during the accident. Detective Kong says, okay, I'll request a search warrant first. As he was about to leave out, Poxon notices Miss Ma'am at the doorway to the garage, looking like a Bond villain. She doesn't say, how are you? How are you holding up with Heejun missing? No. Is it dismissive? What are you doing here? He's not taking that, putting his hand on her arm, stepping towards her. She asks, what are you doing? When she tries to jerk her arm away, Poxon's hold on her is unwavering, his face menacing as he looks over her. He says, you haven't been crying. You don't know whether your son is alive right now yet. You didn't come to the scene or cry. You're something else. She asks, why should I cry? And she snatches her hand from him. Your father, Park Jun-ho. Wait, what? Wait a plot twist minute. Did this woman just say that Park Jun-ho, the chairman, is actually Arbe's father? Like, this old man is his father. Dang. But you know, in hindsight, so many things that were said previously make sense. But I'll get into that later. Let's try that again, though. Miss Ma'am says, your father, Park Jung-ho, said my son fell into the water and drowned when he took him fishing. We searched the entire lake, but the boy was nowhere to be found. I struggled in agony, not knowing whether my son was alive or not, beating my chest as I cried and cried again. Whenever I heard that a body had been found washed up, I ran barefoot to the scene. I already did that more than enough 20 years ago. And now, isn't it your turn to experience that pain? That cold heart, oh. But trust, I'll get into her and her shenanigans later on because, as y'all know, there's tons more coming where she's concerned. So, after that scene, we get the recap from Na-Yuri about Poxon's reveal at the press conference last episode, but it's been 4 days since the accident. But she says, since the spokesperson's press conference, search operations have continued, but Miss Hung Yi-ju has not been found yet. Rescue authorities have announced plans to expand the search area downriver. The teleprompter moves on to housing leasing scams, but Na-Yuri is stalling, unable to say the words, and the news crew is wondering why she stopped. The director urges her to keep going. Instead of delving into her next news cycle, she says instead, dear viewers, we're earnestly asking for your cooperation. And everyone in the news studio is rolling their eyes and aggravated at her diverting from the news at hand. But she beseeches the public, please lend your attention and support so Hung Yi-ju can return to her family's arms as soon as possible, and she bows. After this, she's in the car with Ji Sang-woo. He asks, you think it'll be okay? She says, I'm fine. I still have a lot of energy left. And he's like, no, the weather. Looking up at the sky, she reassures, they said it won't rain. Surely the sky won't turn against us. Let's pray, he says. I'm not religious. I never prayed this much. So Na-Yuri prays, saying, me too. And he looks at her while I'm like, bruh, look at the road. Please look at the road. He always does this. But he says, by the way, when are you going to ask me? Her? About what? Whether or not I knew Hung Yi-ju was Poxon's wife, and why I didn't tell you if I did. She responds with, you told me to hear it for myself. Were you talking about Hee-ju? He says yes, and he's sorry. She asks, why would you be sorry? Hee-ju should apologize. She quotes, did you have fun fooling me all this time? You really went too far. I'll confront her. I'll get an apology from her. Hee-ju's in big trouble, Ji Sang-woo remarks. She's really gonna get it. And they chuckle. And he follows with, hey, you know what? Hee-ju can talk too. Na-Yuri is floored with that. She can... what? Ji Sang-woo mentions that she really talks well. She's got a great voice too. After she laughs in disbelief, Na-Yuri grabs onto Ji Sang-woo and says, this won't do. Step on it, he asks, and she agrees, saying, let's find Hee-ju quickly. I need to find her and hear that voice for myself. So it's awesome they're giving hope to try and find her safe and sound. So drones are being deployed once again to search for her, because remember, drones were deployed in episode 6 for her, and there's a whole bunch of volunteers that are chipping in to help find her, including her old boss and colleagues from the sign language place and the crew from the presidential office. Kyung Young-woo asks, shall we gather around? And when they do, he says, let's get started for today. Everyone, please stay alert, be careful, and stay safe. Her boss can't move yet, looking at Hong Yi-ju's missing poster, which it seems that her age on the poster says 29, but Park Sun says in the press conference that she's 28. Either way, her boss is crying, and honestly, she probably has cried more on Hong Yi-ju's behalf than the witch has this entire series. Pitiful. Anyway, Kang Yeol-woo comes up to her to bring her along. Just then, Ji Sang-woo and Na Yuri pull up. Ji Sang-woo apologizes for them being late, but they're all here together as well. Na Yuri thanks the group for their help, but Hong Yi-ju's former boss says, I should be thanking you. You all stepped up like this, and I'm grateful. Na Yuri wonders, where's Park Sun? Ji Sang-woo says that he's normally at the scene. Her boss says that he received a call and left only a little while ago. To where? Kang Yeol-woo says that they don't know, just that he left in a hurry. What we see next is a chain of evidence collected thus far, like Hong Yi-ju's presidential badge, the kidnapper's knife, etc. Detective Kang asks Park Sun to please check if it belongs to Hong Yi-ju, and he hands Bae a phone. And Park Sun knows this phone belongs to Hong Yi-ju. Detective says, downstream from where these were found, there's a dam. She hasn't been found even after searching this area, so the chances of survival, Park Sun cuts him off. You can tell me when her body is found. Detective Khan asks, excuse me? Park Sun iterates, you can save that for when her body is found. We still need to search more, because our boy isn't hearing any of that until he has physical proof that his Hijua is gone. He asks, what about the search warrant? We still don't have it? Detective Khan says, I just got a call about that. It was rejected. It's hard to prove the charges with just suspicions and statements. And as you well know, she is the wife of the leading presidential candidate. She's also the prime suspect. Park Sun interjects. Request a warrant again. There's a way to get to it. The possible way? Park Sr. is doing a press conference. He starts, 24 years ago, my son went to the lake with his grandfather and never came back. We were unable to find his body, and we couldn't accept our child's passing, so we couldn't register it. Then, one day, at the fishing spot my son used to visit, we met a child who had grown up there without parents or even a name. He's the son who's with us now. He was the same age as our son, and to us, it felt like fate. All the while, as Miss Ma'am is sitting there looking like she'd rather be anywhere else but there, the police drive up and charge into the building. Also, our boy, Jang Hyuk-jin, is there, all ready with a question. Why didn't your biological son search for his parents? And why is he seeking revenge against spokesperson Park Sun? Park Sr.'s PR guy is like, you can ask questions later, but Park Sr. waves him off saying he'll answer the question. Among people, there are rumors that my son threatened spokesperson Park, but that's not true. My son hasn't been in a sound state of mind since the lake accident. But our reporter friend stands up with his mic like, the blackmail and the threats aren't true? There's audio of your son's voice and phone conversation recorded on the spokesperson's dashcam during Hong Yi-ju's kidnapping. And that's not all. There are testimonies linking him to the Sunil Child Care Center abduction and murking cases. Shall we hear it? What he pulls out is a testimony recording that he holds the mic up to from Park DJ. Park DJ testifies, I first saw him near the presidential office last year. Park Sr.'s like, what's that? Jang Hyuk-jin responds with a statement from the suspect's accomplice. Let's listen further. And we see Park DJ, now in jailhouse beige, recounting his experience with the kidnapper. He continues, it was the first time I'd seen someone with such animosity towards Park Sun. And we can see the kidnapper being escorted, and if you can even call it that, out of the building while Park DJ is walking up. And the kidnapper is screaming Park Sun's name with such vehemence and hostility. Curious, Park DJ asks one of the security people what's going on. The guy says, the man kept insisting on meeting the spokesperson, trying to barge in without permission. The kidnapper gets free, promising to murk Park Sun himself. So, Park DJ wonders, is he a victim too? Will I be able to make use of his hatred? I followed him around for a few days to see if we shared the same goal. That's when I saw him head to an important location. An important location? Our reporter friend asked. That location he's speaking of? The villa. Partridge J comments, he knew where the orphan children and my brother had gone missing. That's why I was sure he was a victim like me. And Partridge J takes a picture of the man and eventually discovers the man's number somehow and sends the picture to him. Partridge J asks the man via text, "Who are you? Why you want to take revenge on Pac's son?" The kidnapper had confirmed with him that he grew up at the fishing spot. Chairman Pac brought the bodies of the victims his grandson had offed to the owner of said fishing spot. The cat's out of the bag now. Even Pac Sr.'s PR guy has this ooh-ish look on his face. Pac Sr. screams, "Take care of it!" and his PR guy goes scrambling. Partridge J's testimony goes on with, one day, because he saw his grandson's face, Chairman Pac tried to drown him. Since then, he's been living in an impaired state. He said he wanted to get revenge on the Pac family for making him that way. It was all a lie, though. And the cameras are now filming, flashing everything. As Pac Sr.'s crew comes to take it away from our reporter guy, he's like, "Fine, take it. The police already have it anyway." Now, Pac Sr. is trying to regain control over the room as reporters are furiously typing on their keyboards. He shouts, "Now everyone, 2 people are missing at the moment and their fate is unknown. Right now, we shouldn't be swayed by baseless rumors or fake news." What isn't fake is Detective Kong opening that door, walking in like he owns the place. Mr. Min approaches him, asking, "How can I help you?" But Detective Kong pushes him back without a second thought. He goes up to Miss Ma'am, asking if she's Shim Kyo Jin. She gets up. After glancing over the officers, she says, "I am." He's like, "I'm Detective Kong from the Violent Crimes Unit. You're under arrest as a suspect in a murking case." Oh. More murmurs and reactions. Pac Sr. screams, "What are you saying?" But Detective Kong recites her rights to remain silent and he puts the cuffs on her. And Miss Ma'am looks at him, stunned, as the news crews are already eating this up. As they are about to take her away, her husband is scrambling to get to her. Next, we get Hung Yi-ju's mother in her daughter's bedroom, waiting for a word about her missing daughter. She's already called Hung Yi-ju 13 times, and she tries one more, where she gets the message, "The phone you called is turned off. You'll be directed to voicemail. Additional fees may apply after the beep." She says aloud, "I wanted you to live a different life from mine. To live without hardship, marry into a wealthy family, wear beautiful clothes, and indulge in luxury." By this time, Hung Yi-na approaches the partially closed door and lets us in. The witch continues, "That's the life I wanted for you. I thought it was for your own good, but no matter how hard I try, I can't remember. I don't think I ever saw it. Your smile, Yi-ju." And she cries and lies back down on the bed. And Hung Yi-na is touched by seeing the witch break for once. And it's touching and poignant, don't get me wrong, but it took losing your child to realize this? Like, get all the way out of here with that mess. She was the adult, Hung Yi-ju's mother, in this relationship. Yet, she was the first line of opposition that made Hung Yi-ju miserable. I mean, this is the same woman who struck her little girl for writing about her dream of being a news anchor in that very same room, told her to be silent for years, shoved her at Hung Yi-na to emulate her and to be used as a translation tool by her. She wasn't pleased with the girl just being herself, comfortable in her own skin and with the ability to choose her own dreams. I mean, I'm glad she's having this bout of remorse, but it's years too late for me, so she should have repented years ago. So yes, go straight to hell with that. Moving on, and so many people are making me heated this episode that now that we're almost at the end, I'm lining up everyone. Anyway, Chairman Hung is day drinking and Hung Yi-na barges in asking, "Why are you doing nothing? You should do something. Why? Are you afraid that stepping forward will expose the deal you made with Chairman Pac 20 years ago?" She gets nothing from her father. So she's like, "Fine. If you can't do it, I will. This tragedy between our two families, the world deserves to know what happened." Her father finally says, "Will doing that change anything?" She counters with, "What will change if we do nothing? You saw what happened when you did nothing after losing your son 20 years ago." He doesn't respond, but the witch calls for him. She comes charging in on her phone asking, "What does this mean?" He asks, "What's wrong?" She shows the headline and the picture of Miss Ma'am being arrested, and Chairman Hung is in disbelief too. The witch is like, who did this wench murk? Then she has a revelation. She didn't, right? Nahiju, right? Welp. Miss Ma'am is in the interrogation room, sitting there, unnerved, with Detective Kong sitting across from her, and she is checking her watch and looking bored. She's like, well, has a body been found or something? Detective Kong is like, what body? She counters with, you said it was a murk charge. Didn't you take me here because I offed somebody? Before that, are you prepared to lose your badge? I can get you fired for defamation or abuse of power if I wanted to. Detective Kong folds his arms, musing, have we found the body? Do you think you're here for murking the missing Hung Yee-ju? He swivels his laptop around to let her see what's on it. All the while, Pak-sun is watching his quote-unquote mother through the glass. And it's a video of Miss Ma'am doing something. It's a brief flash of her putting a pillow somewhere or over someone. Detective Kong pauses the video. Do you admit to the charge? And Miss Ma'am sobers up real quick. She asks, how did you get this? Detective Kong turns to the glass and nods, where Pak-sun comes in to confront his mother. When the detective leaves, Pak-sun places down a ring, the infamous dragon ring that belonged to the chairman. He says, grandfather's signet ring. He gave it to me a few days before he passed away. A few days later, I returned it to him, telling him it wasn't right for me to take it then. That's when the video was taken, right before grandfather passed away. That moment of truth. And we see that ring has a camera in it. And it shows Miss Ma'am approaching the chairman in his hospital room. So we get a brief flashback of course, what happened the year before. And as she approaches his bedside, the chairman says, you've gone through a lot, living as my daughter-in-law. He holds his hand out for her to hold. She doesn't take it. She says, are you asking for forgiveness? He says, forgiveness? Are you talking about the sin of sending your son to his final resting place with my own hands? She says, there's one more. The sin of replacing my son with yours. Whoop, well there's that. He says, so you knew all along. She sits down on the side of the bed, admitting, I didn't at first. As soon as my son was gone, you brought an orphan and shoved him into my arms, telling him to raise him as son. But as I watched that child become more and more like you, I saw how lovingly you gazed at him and how proud you were of him. I couldn't help but know. The joy and glory that comes with raising a child should have been mine, but you enjoyed it instead of me. He says, no, I spared you the pain and tragedy you would have faced if your child had lived. And her face contracts from that answer. She says, until the very end, you still won't ask for forgiveness. He sighs like, nope. She responds with, then, I'll do it for you. She takes off the man's glasses and says, forgive me, Father. And she takes that pillow and smothers him. Yep, she's the one who sent the chairman to an early grave, which makes the whole comment from the kidnapper last episode about wishing to end his grandfather with his bare hands so ironic, since it was his mother who ended up doing it for him with the help of that pillow. Pak-sun says, people tend to tell the truth when the final moment comes. That's why I kept this. For the moment your lifelong secret finally comes to light. She says, you are indeed Pak Jun-ho's son. So you'll make me pay the price for offing your father? He responds with, I didn't record it for him. I've been saving this for the day the ugly truth of this family is exposed. But I never imagined I'd have to use it not to ruin someone, but to save someone. Mother, now tell me, where's Hee-ju? What did you do with her? The police already have your phone and dash cam. It'll work in your favor if you confess before the evidence comes out. You know that better than anyone. She thinks about it while the police are getting ready to review everything. She says, but I'm curious about something. Fine. Let's say I had her kidnapped. But what you really want to find isn't her body. It's her alive, isn't it? So tell me, And she sits on the table and leans in, trying to take control of the conversation because, she likes control. Is there any reason I should keep her alive? I'm not keeping her as a hostage, so why would I keep her alive? If it were you, would you have bothered keeping her alive? And what we soon find out is that after the accident, the car Hung Yee-ju was driving didn't fall into the river automatically. It was still on the edge. Her airbag deployed, and both Hung Yee-ju and the kidnapper are knocked out. Mr. Min drives up, seeing the accident, and drags the kidnapper out. Once he gets him into the backseat of his car, he gets a call from Miss Ma'am asking if he found him. Mr. Min confirms that he has. What should he do with Hee-ju? She tells him something we don't hear. He says, "What?" Then I understand. As he approaches the driver's side where our girl is still knocked out, we don't see what he does by way of either pulling her out of the car or letting the car go into the river with her still in it. But Park Sun says, if it were you, you would have kept her alive. For me. She's puzzled and she says, for you? Park Sun gets out of the chair saying, you said it before. The pain of not knowing whether he was gone or alive. Struggling, pounding your chest, crying and crying. Whenever a body was found floating in the river, you ran barefoot in that agony. You said it was my turn now. She nods and says, right, I did. He remarks, that wouldn't have been enough for you. You would have gone even further. You would have looked for a way to torment me, the son of Park Jun-ho, until the very end. And she has this little smile on her face like she would have done just that because it will still be getting back at the man who took her child away by way of letting our bae suffer. Diabolical. This family, man, I swear. Detective Kong, though, goes into the room where they're trying to get information off of her phone and everything. He asks, how's it going? One responds, we have security footage. We see that there's someone banging on the doors, the kidnapper, and it's reminiscent of when he was little and his mother locked him in his room at the villa. Detective Kong asks for his dude to zoom in. We see Miss Man enter into a room, and between rows of pottery is someone on the floor. Someone who looks like Hung Yee-ju. Seeing this, Detective Kong sprints out of the room, and when Miss Man approaches, Hung Yee-ju opens her eyes. Miss Man points out, you haven't eaten anything for days. Are you planning to starve? No response. She asks, why? Again, nothing. She sighs, I could have had you bodied. Instead, I brought you here and saved your life. So why are you trying to off yourself? Hung Yee-ju says, because I know what you're up to. Intrigued, Miss Ma'am asks, what I'm up to? What's that? Hung Yee-ju remarks, he's probably searching for me like crazy like now. 1 year, 2 years. And then after about 10 years, he'll probably give up, thinking I'm gone. He'll just come to accept it. Then one day, after more than 20 years have passed, you want him to eventually find out, after all these years, that his beloved was actually alive. Then he'll mourn the days that we couldn't be together. Filled with regret and sorrow, he will beat his chest with despair. And the scenes intertwine that both of our babies figure out that's exactly what Miss Man was aiming to do all along, and says this in unison. The scene flips back and forth between the two. Brilliant parallels at how they're on the same wavelength, at least on this. And Park Sun beats his chest because he's already been filled with regret and sorrow already. Crying, he says, for me, you would have prepared that final pain if it were you. Tears are filling Miss Ma'am's eyes, but again, that sinister little smile that looks like still she will relish him living in that pain for the rest of his life. That his grandfather, or rather his father, took away her son for 20 years. She'll pay that pain forward onto the son she never wanted. For him to suffer for years without the one person who made his life worth living. But just then, Detective Kong bursts in with, we found Hung Yee-ju. Then he and officers go rushing out of the building, wanting to check the address and move quickly. So, mid-episode debriefing, and this was a lot to take in, one of which I covered on briefly, but wanted to cover this in full after this confrontation between Miss Ma'am and our bae. But y'all, The Park Sun we've known is not only the son of Chairman Park, he's the uncle of the child he replaced. And his father/grandfather practically handed over his illegitimate child over to his older son to raise. That's wild. Now, I remember back at the end of my episode 3 recap that I speculated about Park Sun being a replacement kid and or an affair baby. I got cued in pretty early that he was definitely a replacement kid, but I wasn't sure about the affair baby end of it. But briefly, in the back of my mind, I wondered if he was anyway attached to Chairman Park as either the son of another illegitimate kid he had out there, or if this was his son outright. I wasn't confident with that line of thought, but sure enough, this came true. And I'm assuming Park Sun is an affair baby, considering his father stuck him to be raised away from interactions with many people and with no name. But I find it funny that the man who claimed he didn't want one rusty spoon in his house had a rusty spoon or a sin that he hid outside of the house. I mean, he was the main guy pushing for perfection in his family, yet the chairman was sitting left, right, and center. The hypocrisy. And I don't know if we'll ever find out who Park Sun's true mother is. Was she threatened to give up her child? Did the chairman have her taken care of? We know that it would have hurt his aspirations a lot if any word got out about him having a secret child out there. And of course, I don't think our Park Sun was born out of the single purpose of being what he eventually would have become, which was replacing his nephew. Because of course, since they were roughly the same age, there was no way to predict that the kidnapper would become so unstable in his youth. So there may have been an alternative life of our babe just chilling out, catching fish, and none the wiser of his true origin. It's just weird to think that Park Sun was born around the same time as his nephew, and I can't even tell if him being born was a calculation on Chairman Park's part or not. Like, I'm unsure if he was born as a pawn to be placed wherever the chairman saw fit. But you know what? I believe that when he saw his actual grandson not doing too well mentally, that he probably thought about switching out these boys for a long while. And you know what? His long game worked where most were none the wiser for 20 years, until Park Sun blew the whistle last episode. But for over 2 decades, the chairman's legacy was secure and he passed on, living a long, successful life until Miss Ma'am took him out of it. But you know, these revelations just bring so many things to light. Episode 3, Chairman Hung mentioning how Park Sun had so many instinctive qualities from Chairman Park, and Park Sr. not liking that comparison very much. Miss Ma'am mentioning in episode 10 how alike Park Sr. and the kidnapper were, but how our bae favored his quote-unquote grandfather more. And now I look at that scene of episode 10 even more deeply, and I had originally analyzed that from Park Sr.'s standpoint, there was a sense of jealousy regarding Park Sun and how he had so much favor from his grandfather, not realizing then that this was part sibling rivalry. How our babe probably got more praise and accolades and attaboys or whatever, way more than his older brother did, especially from the public at large, but more than likely from their father. Their father, who apparently adored the younger out of the two, could be a hard thing to swallow, especially when it's evident which one takes after the chairman the most. And I don't know if Park Sr. is aware that the child he raised is his brother. I assume he does, but if he didn't, the way he walked out of the room after his conversation with his wife in episode 10 denotes that he might have been told just then if he lacked the self-awareness before, which the man does from time to time. But for real, when I first watched this episode, I originally missed Miss Ma'am casually mentioning Park Sun's paternity during their confrontation in the garage. So I got the plot twist during the flashback scene at the chairman's bedside. Honestly, I'm glad I saw the revelation here instead of there, because I believe there was so much more of a punch of that plot point being placed in this scene in comparison to the garage one. I think because the way she said it, it felt more of a throwaway instead of something that had better impact, like now. Not disregarding that scene in the garage, that it wasn't filled with tension. Of course it was. Our bae is hell-bent on finding every single clue he can to find his Hijula. And he knows his so-called mother is up to some stuff, now that we know the proof that he carried. But I just think that the garage scene should have focused more on her dismissal of his grief, like usual, but skipped the comment regarding his paternity. Now for Miss Ma'am, I understand where she's coming from. Not only did she have to give up her crazy son, but she was tossed her father-in-law's affair kid to raise instead. Yeah, I totally get the unfairness of that. And I'm all here for her taking out the chairman. To me, it's a wash. The simpleness of terrible people taking care of terrible people. But what I can't get behind is her coldness towards Park Sun. Not only for him not being her son, but the son of the man who took her child away from her. The woman is acting as if he volunteered to be there or deliberately pushed her child out when our bae wanted nothing to do with this whole affair. But simply resenting a child who's innocent, I can't stand that. And I don't know why she's fighting so hard to prove she's such a benevolent parent when, once and again, didn't you lock your child up in his room at the villa for his own good, for his own protection? Remember that? Again, she was in a hard spot. Like I said before, it would have been bad press if any word got around to the Parks having a crazy child. But he was beyond their help and he needed professional intervention. So yeah, tough spot. But that doesn't excuse her bad behavior. And she was going to utilize Hong Ye-ju in all of this. Someone who was innocent when her son, let's be honest, was far from an angel. So let's get back to this recap. While the cops are rushing to the address, Mr. Min is at Chairman Park's house. Some rooms have been roped off with caution tape, but he's sitting there in the dark, phone in hand, looking at the headline of Miss Man being arrested. He remembers her telling him, "If anything happens to me, take care of the rest." So, Mr. Min opens the portrait of Chairman Park that has a mechanism in the dragon ring he has, and it opens a door that descends into the basement. Down there are 2 vault doors. In one door to the right is the kidnapper, where Miss Ma'am commands Mr. Min to save her son. The left door contains a harder choice, where she wants Mr. Min to off Hong Ye-ju. While he's trying to, Park Sun is driving up front with the police tailing him, tearfully begging, "Please, Ye-ju, hold on," as he's trying to get to the house. Mr. Min reaches down like he's about to choke Hong Ye-ju. Instead, he puts his hand on her shoulder and she gasps. He asks her to run away. Hurry. And she goes out of the house, woozy from not eating much, but she runs. Then we get a voiceover from her. Hong Ye-ju monologues. "If it was for you, I thought I wouldn't mind going, but I miss you. I wasn't afraid of going, but the thought of never seeing you again was terrifying." Mr. Min goes to the door where the kidnapper is still banging on it. The kidnapper asks, "Are you outside? Who are you? Open the door." Open it right now." He stops banging and straightens up. He says, "Do you want to play with me? Let's play. There's tons of fun stuff in here. Let's play with these, including the mask he wore when he was a child and the knife he used then." He then screeches, "Let's play!" Mr. Min has a drill and drills in the door to seal the kidnapper in like a tomb with a huge padlock. The kidnapper promises, "When I get out of here, I'm going to off you. Open it! Open the door!" Mr. Min sighs in relief. It's finished. The monster is locked away. But not quite. There's a loading of a gun and someone demanding that the door be opened. Mr. Min turns around and sees Park Sr. with his rifle trained on him. Oh, damn. Over the pleading shrieks of the kidnapper, Park Sr. says, "I saw everything." You two exchanged glances. And this was when Miss Ma'am got arrested. Park Sr. continues with, "Something fell off, so I followed you. Who knew you'd come here? Who knew you'd hide him here? Now, I will pay for my actions myself. Open that door." Meanwhile, Hong Ye-ju is going down the hill. When she comes to a tree to rest, she hears a gunshot back at the house, and so does Park Sun, who's nearby. But Hong Ye-ju loses her footing, rolling backwards down the hill, and she's knocked out. Back at the mansion, there's a tug-of-war between father and son. Mr. Min looks like he's been taken out. The kidnapper says, "It's been a while, father. What's this for? Are you going to off me?" He looks at him. Park Sr. remembers what his wife told him last episode, that their son takes after him, and he loosens his grip on the rifle and his emotions. A fine time to grow sentimental and grow in conscience. With his weakening, his son flings him into the wall with his gun trained on him. Mr. Min cries out, "Mr. Park!" The kidnapper briefly looks at him before returning his gaze back to his father. He says, It was great to see you. Goodbye, father. And blam! Possibly hoisted by his own petard, but we don't know what happened with that final shot and who got taken out, but most likely Park Sr. got dealt with. Hong Hee-joo wakes up, and the next thing she hears is that whistling tune from the kidnapper, just Sunday strolling down the hill with the rifle stretched across his shoulders like he's carrying an animal home. But it's not because he's free now. He's looking for something or someone, and he says, Anya, sis. He's looking for Hong Hee-joo. He asks, why did you leave me behind? Let's play some more. And where she is, he's still on top of that hill where she's below it. And she spots headlights to where she has to decide on what she needs to do, to try and make a run for the car or chance being spotted by the kidnapper. She takes a chance with the car, running towards it, whispering for them to help her. Just then the kidnapper does see her, saying, I found you, with a smile. But by that time, Hong Hee-joo has stopped in front of the Genesis SUV, and that car belongs to her husband. Said husband, blurry to Hong Hee-joo from lack of nutrition, gets out of the car and comes up to her, saying her name and takes her into his arms. They embrace, crying in relief as the cops show up. He asks, are you okay? Are you hurt? She responds with, I'm okay. When Park Sun realizes she doesn't have any shoes on, he scoops her up and puts her into his car. He tells her, let's go home. It's all over now. She disagrees that it isn't. The kidnapper is still nearby and he has a gun. Detective Khan demands that they get out of there and that they'll search the area and arrest him. Park Sun thanks him while he puts a coat over Hong Hee-joo, tucking her in. Detective Khan tells the others that he's going to follow the spokesperson and for the rest of them to split up and search the area. He wants them to be careful since the suspect is armed and to request backup from the nearby precinct. And the kidnapper watches as our couple drives away. On the way, our couple holds hands and Park Sun says, Hee-joo, you have to stay awake. Let's go to the hospital. Just hold on. Soon, someone in black steps out onto the road. And you already know who it is, the crazy kidnapper. Park Sun screeches the car to a halt. Do they reverse? Run him over? No, because that would be a rational choice. And y'all, I'll be honest, hiding my disdain for the choices made here is impossible, even for this recap, but here we go. So they just sit there and allow this fool to adjust the rifle, and he even looks down the sights of it. He looks at them asking, where are you going? Let's play. Our couple just sits there, holding firmly onto each other's hands. The kidnapper says, Park Sun, get out of the car. Arbe says, Hee-joo, listen to me. Don't get out of this car. Stay here. She begs him not to because that's the most sensible thing he could do. The kidnapper points the gun at him, demanding for him to get out. Hong Hee-joo again tells him not to. He says, I have to end this. And I agree. But you can end this by having his face hit the grill of your car and backing over him 15, 20 times. But no. He iterates for her to not come out, and he stupidly gets out of the car. And with his hands up, he walks over to the kidnapper. He's trying to put his negotiator skills to work, telling the kidnapper, this is between us. Don't drag her into this anymore. Sirens sound in the distance. The kidnapper says, do you think you won? But did you really win? Park Sun counters with, I never wanted to beat you. I told you. I didn't want to take what's yours. The kidnapper's like, okay, yeah, you just wanted to live happily ever after with Hong Hee-joo, but do you remember what I said before? I told you I wanted to see you suffer properly. Aren't you guilty of anything? Park Sun looks at him confused. The kidnapper laughs with, of course you are. You're the son of Park Jung-ho, a man full of sins. Detective Kong is following the path down, but he sees Park Sun's stopped car and wonders about it. He radios that the suspect has been spotted and he's requesting for backup. The kidnapper lowers his gun and Park Sun lowers his hands. As the kidnapper walks into Park Sun's personal space, his eyes look straight at Hong Hee-joo in the car, which makes her so uncomfortable, and she starts unlocking her seatbelt and was about to get out of the car, but he's whispering something to Park Sun. And it seems like among those words, I can see that he says Hong Yi-ju's name. When he backs away, our Bae is processing what he's been told, and it sends him for a loop, trembling breaths and all. He turns, stunned, back to his Hee-jua, red-eyed, crying and speechless as the kidnapper laughs on. As the cops surround them with guns drawn, the kidnapper, still laughing, says, "That's it. That's the face I wanted to see from you." Then he lifts the rifle at him where Detective Kong shouts, "Put the gun down." After a long pause, there's a gunshot, with Hong Yi-ju looking on shocked before the screen fades to black. Then we get what we got back at the beginning of Park Sun asking, "Hong Yi-ju, do you like being married to me or not? If you don't hate it, how about we slowly get to know each other better?" And she nods, and he sighs with pleasure before she says, "I like that," and confesses that she likes him. In disbelief, he says, "What?" She says, "I've liked you for a long time now." He asks, "Since when?" She says, "When we were kids, since the moment you carried me on your back." And the thing is, in their world marred with imperfection, I could imagine this scene going down exactly like this if Park Sun had pushed aside his vengeance for her up front, and Hong Yi-ju feeling like he was the only person she could trust and confide in, that together they could be each other's safe space to grow and love. And like bookends to this episode, where Park Sun leads into this scenario with regret, Hong Yi-ju finishes with it. In the voiceover, she says, "I should have told you when you were still by my side. I should have hidden it and kept it a secret. I should have told you that I've liked you for a long time." And there's now scenes of them celebrating Christmas together. Her decorating the tree and them looking like they want to make a baby for Christmas because the makeout session shows how much they wanted to get down that night. But they can't because something's burning in the kitchen, and it's Park Sun's steak, which he dumps her on the couch to go and get. And they're giggling about the misfortune, and Hong Yi-ju comforts him that it's okay. But everything is not okay. Our happy couple fades, along with the Christmas dinner and most of the decorations. And the lights are shut off, but a Christmas tree does remain. And Hong Yi-ju is in the dark, her head on her bent knees, saying, "Only now, after he's gone, do I regret belatedly." She dials his number, which the automatic voice says, "The number you called is not in service. Please check the number and try again." And she calls over and over. She wonders, what did he hear that day? What made him look at me with such sad eyes? As soon as she steps off the couch, her phone rings, but an international call comes through with a 604 number with 11 digits. She answers it, but no one answers back. She says, "Is that you?" And with a freeze frame, that's the end of episode 11. What in the friggin' hell? Why on earth would he ever get out of that car? That makes zero sense. With all his negotiation skills, there's no reasoning with crazy. And this dude, his nephew, namesake, whatever, is beyond reason. It took me so much patience to get through this scene twice while working on this outline and getting pics for this because the stupidity of it made me so angry. Park Sun is supposed to be a rational, well thought out man, but when I think about it though, he's done tons of stupid things before, a lot of which I've already called him on the carpet for. Like his nonsensical reasons of not telling the woman he loved he actually gave a damn about her, him rushing headlong into danger twice in episode 8 with zero backup. I don't count him though going down the mountainside in episode 6 to find his wife because that was the show of dedication we needed to see from him to be the fulcrum that turned our opinion around on him. And that was like the measuring point of whether he was worthy of our Hong Yi-ju by the end of the series. So yeah, he's done a lot of senseless things, made quite a few bad choices, but this is probably one of the worst choices I've ever thought he would make. The man has plot armor, but that doesn't save him from looking bad in viewers' eyes as a result of making a deliberate, awful choice. As Vicky Reyes had raved about to me, he literally just got Hong Yi-ju back like 2 minutes ago. And if the kidnapper had decided to pop him off then, where would that have left her? The kidnapper might have gotten in that car, took care of her, or driven off with her. Then what? Where would this noble choice have gotten him? Ridiculous. And my anger doesn't belong to that scene alone, even though it has a lot to do with it. Park Sr. shouldn't have left his son out. The kidnapper should have been left in the vault to rot, or at least until the police got there. He wouldn't have stopped being a danger to our couple or to others. Now, most of the attacks he wrought lately dealt with mainly the family. It doesn't seem like he had taken out anyone else. But Park Sr. had no business letting that man out of that room. If he had, he might have lived if he was the one who received that gunshot. But, despite my anger, there is something good I do have to say about the scene. I will give it something. And I mean the scene between Park's son and his nephew. The tension in the scene was palpable, as we as viewers are unsure what the kidnapper would do. It didn't go how I thought, the kidnapper showing restraint and not blasting Park's son immediately into infinity. Even still, that wouldn't have been the case if Park's son would have afforded to hit this kidnapper to begin with. End of episode, roll credits. In order for them to do this scene justice, I personally think it should have gone this way leading up to it. And get in the comment section if you agree or if you have a different thought, besides for him just running him over with the car. That is long established. But if they were bent on doing this scene, this is how they could have possibly gotten away with it. Hung Hee-Joo gets free, wanders down the hill, slips, falls, and is knocked out per what we already got, okay? Park's son and the cops drive up to the house and they go down and discover the scene of what happened with his father and Mr. Min. Then Arbe, not really heeding police or anything like that, decides to go and run after Hung Hee-Joo to try and find her, possibly hearing the kidnapper whispering in the woods while he's looking for her. Park's son sneaks about to try and find her before the kidnapper does. Then bingo, he secures his wife, but as soon as he gets to her and they sneak out, the kidnapper spots them and then do that scene. And then the police come out and surround them and blah, blah, blah. Also, there would have been other shortcuts that got us to this point, but And not to say that my scenario is 100% perfect. It's not. But I still believe it's 1% more rational than the nonsensical scene we just got. Okay. As much as the last bits of this episode aggravated me, I'm not going to be one of those that will take an entire episode for just one section of it, even if that section was essential and they dropped the ball on it. Like I said, the overall twists and turns of the episode surprised me still. Miss Man marking the old goat and getting confirmation about Park Sun's paternity was a banger. And I also wonder how long Arbe knew of his paternity. Probably longer than we know, and I'm not sure if we'll ever get that revelation. The theme of this episode was for sure regret. Park Sun demonstrated his regret first with the woulda, shoulda, coulda of going back and asking his wife if she wanted to make their marriage work for real. The witch having her own regrets about realizing how unhappy she made her daughter, but like I said, I hated it took her losing Hung Hee-Joo to understand that. It doesn't erase the years of her being verbally and physically harsh to Hung Hee-Joo. The only thing I like her to do is just let her daughter have peace in the future. Miss Ma'am, I don't think she regrets what she's done, probably regrets getting caught, because she looked unrepentant in making Park Sun pay for the sins of his father. Speaking of the father who raised him, it seemed he had a little bit of regret when he was wrestling over the gun with his son. He was a child and they tried to get rid of him, but I understand the point of their position that with all the money they had, they couldn't cure their son. So, what do I think about the last episode? Will our couple be reunited? Yeah, that's gonna happen. I did not get the connotation between the two numbers, the foreign numbers that we're calling. 604 reverse 406 is Park Sun. Like, come on. Come on, I just now got that. So, yeah, I was today years old of recording this, realizing what that number was. But yes, I already know they're going to be together. In fact, I've already been spoiled whether or not we have a happy ending, but I have zero context of what their ending means. If they're together with children or just living new lives away from their family, I don't know what all episode 12 is going to carry. I don't know. I also know one of the last songs from the soundtrack we haven't heard yet is Yoo Yeon-suk singing Say My Name, which means most likely he probably might get a new name, his own separate identity that he can have from this day forward. I mean, that would make sense, and I think it's like the most rational next step. Now, I don't know if the kidnapper was the one who got dealt with in the end, so I'm sure we'll get a replay of what happened after that gunshot in episode 12 somewhere. Miss Ma'am is arrested, and there's assumingly no more Park Sr. At least that's what I believe. And I know that Hyeju will try and find her husband, despite that in episode 9, he told her not to look for him, but he'll come and find her. But I think it'll be a repeat to where she's waited these 6 months since this incident, and she's not going to wait anymore to find her husband and bring him home. But yeah, that concludes my recap for episode 11. We got one more to go, y'all, which is awesome because the Dramatic Bestie and I have been busy with shows that we've watched since last fall, and we've got recaps coming on it. Lots of editing to be had, but can't wait to share. But please, like and subscribe. Stay a while. Let me know what your impressions have been up until this point. I'm giving you mine, but hey, it's just a thought.